It's a CBC News exclusive. Windsor police covering up a case of domestic violence. When it happened 4 years ago, the officer was trying to keep Children's Aid from getting involved. Later, that decision became a problem for the victim.
So thankful. I can't not believe the support. The community was absolutely amazing, that you're just driving by and you see something happening and you offer your help.
A grateful mother says thanks. Dozens of people form a search party in Chatham after a 2-year-old boy gets lost in a field of corn. Another perfect fall day out there in Windsor, Essex. 15 degrees right now, and that warm snap's going to continue for a little bit. Colette Kennedy with all the details coming up next. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. Windsor police officers were found to have covered up a domestic violence investigation 4 years ago. The victim was male. The accused his then wife. One of the officers was later sanctioned and the wife eventually charged. But the victim says he's still dealing with the fallout of the officer's initial decision to dismiss the case. The CBC's Jason Vio brings us this exclusive story.
Absolutely hell.
John Levergood's dining room is filled with dozens of binders, signs of the emotional toll this has all taken on him as he tries to defend himself and get records corrected. Back in 2016, Levergood called 911 after his now estranged wife assaulted him. Officers showed up and said they weren't going to charge her. Levergood secretly recorded the officers when they responded.
If I was to do my job the way I'm supposed to do it, she'd be going and being charged with assault. We'd be taking a statement from you. It would be going to criminal court. And I'm not kidding you when I say CAS will be knocking on your door tomorrow. We're doing you the biggest favor. Oh, no, I don't.
CBC News obtained a copy of that recording. It was verified during an investigation from the Windsor Police Professional Standards Branch.
Or anything else back against it too, right? Yeah, exactly. Basically, there's a non-assault here that basically it's like the assault part never happened, but her belligerent behavior leads us to believe that she's going to continue to throw cups around the house.
Levergood filed a complaint in 2018, and that's when Windsor Police began conducting an internal investigation. One of the responding officers, Constable Kevin Lacrossiere, with 27 years' experience as a cop, pleaded guilty last year to neglect of duty. As a penalty, he lost 80 hours of pay, and that's about $4,000.
They acknowledged injuries. They knew what was going on. They just said it was going to destroy the family. They knew better.
But the officer heard on the recording, Constable Mark Lalonde, retired in 2017. That means the Police Services Act doesn't apply to him, and he was never charged. Officers also reopened the assault case against Levergood's estranged wife in 2018. They charged her, as the officers were required to do back in 2016. Provincial rules state a charge must be laid in any domestic incident if there are reasonable grounds. Now, Levergood is in family court, entangled in a custody battle, but he's having trouble getting the records updated to show the new charge and verified recording.
So it's insane. The police need to step up and do what they need to do. They need to make the calls to the proper agencies, and they need to tell them what actually happened.
Emotionally and financially, Levergood says he's drained, and he wants this all to be over and thinks police should help set the record straight since the service made the mistake.
And I look like the monster because I can't afford to defend against the accusations. You know, I've prepared for a future for my children, and it's gone. It's gone. Nobody wants to look at this. They blame me. I got PTSD now, situational anxiety.
CBC News reached out to the officers involved and Levergood's estranged wife. They either didn't respond or declined to comment. Windsor Police says the onus is on the complainant to bring forward documents in civil and family court matters. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
A Windsor police officer has been charged with assault. They say it happened in June, but was reported to police on Monday. Chatham-Kent police were contacted to assist with the investigation. Police say that the officer and the victim had been in a relationship and that they are not releasing the officer's name to protect the identity of the victim. The officer has been suspended from duty with pay. They were released and expected to appear in court November 5th. The Liberal minority government has survived a confidence vote. If they lost, it would have triggered a snap election. The vote was over a Conservative motion to set up a special committee to investigate pandemic spending and alleged government corruption. It was the first time ever that a vote on the creation of a committee became a confidence motion. CBC's Salima Shivji has more on this showdown that went down to the wire.
The chorus was deafening from the opposition.
It won't be me that caused the election, I can tell you that much. It's going to be the Prime Minister.
The only Canadian who would like to have an election today is the Prime Minister.
They say that all of this, the threat of a snap election during a pandemic, is the government's fault for making a motion to create a committee into a confidence vote. And yet,
I don't want an election. I think that what we need right now is to work together.
I don't think Canadians want an election.
The insistence from the Liberals that they don't want an election either, even as they play tough with the opposition parties.
It is a motion that really drips with no confidence in the government.
All leaving the NDP in a tough spot, not wanting to immediately rush to side with the government, but also under pressure from labor unions, desperate for legislated help to survive the COVID crisis. And so,
The New Democrats will not give Prime Minister Trudeau the election he's looking for. We're not going to be used as an excuse or a cover.
saying careful not to fully play his hand before the vote wouldn't reveal exactly how his party would avoid an election.
Mr. Speaker, I vote against the motion.
But the vote went the Liberals' way, with the Greens also on side, and the Conservatives promising to keep at it.
We're here to ask questions in accordance with our role as an opposition party.
What is still pending is exactly how the opposition will press the government on their COVID spending, including the now cancelled WE contract, with the ruling Liberals filibustering into committees. But yet again, the NDP, however reluctantly, is the Liberal government's main partner in the dance that is a minority parliament, with the very real possibility that we could be back on the brink of a possible election sometime soon. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
Health officials here in Windsor say that they felt like doing a happy dance this morning. This is the first time since March 27th that there have been no new daily cases of COVID-19 reported in the region. The number of active cases in Windsor, Essex, is down to 36. Province-wide, there are 790 new cases today. Hotels are struggling to stay afloat through the COVID-19 pandemic, even though they're deemed an essential service by the Ontario government. Occupancy is hitting record lows, and as Philip de Montagny reports, some are rethinking the future of their business.
Hotels are running at a fraction of their usual occupancy. In downtown Toronto, many of them struggle to reach 10%.
Just this past weekend, the city centre was at 6% occupancy, which I don't think anyone has ever seen numbers like that. It's pretty devastating.
The Drake Hotel runs with about a third of its usual staff during this typically busy season, but fixed costs like rent and insurance are hurting the business.
For this hotel, our flagship on Queen Street West in particular, we have the live music venue, the Underground, we have regular food and beverage, we have a late night offering, we have the hotel. They all have their own business cycles and seasonality, but they've always balanced each other out. Right now, what we're seeing is they're all sort of flatlined.
In southwestern Ontario, this bed and breakfast is now only offering takeout to recover some of its losses. The chef and owner says the cost of running his business was too high after events and stays were canceled.
We've decided to shut down the two major parts of our business, which is significant in terms of a $350,000 loss.
They are burning money, there is no question about it.
This industry expert says hotels did not see the same rebound as restaurants and retailers this summer. He says their fixed costs often exceed their revenues.
From a business perspective, running with less than 10% or less even than 40% occupancy rate, it's not manageable for the hoteliers.
With record low occupation rates and the uncertainty of the second wave, hotels are calling on governments to step in.
The numbers aren't looking great for us, so we are in, I think, we're in pretty dire straits here. We really, really need some government support.
As usual, the municipality is not in a position, the City of Toronto, to help with liquidity issues by itself, but I have been in touch with the other governments about these very specific concerns.
In its throne speech last month, the federal government promised direct aid to the hardest hit industries like tourism, but provided no further details on what those supports could look like. Philippe de Montagny, CBC News, Toronto.
Students in Windsor, Essex seem to be bucking a provincial trend. More than 2,500 elementary students moved from at-home learning to in-person learning, about 5 times more than the students who decided to switch to learn virtually.
Well, I think you have to look at the context. In Windsor and Essex County, our COVID numbers are lower, so parents are feeling more comfortable sending their kids back to school. If we were having this interview in Toronto, I think we would be having the reverse conversation, saying why are parents choosing to send their kids to the virtual system?
Toronto recently saw about 7,500 students opt to move back home from classrooms. In Ottawa, currently a wait list for students who are opting for remote learning. Our local public school board says it's in the process of making necessary staffing changes for the students. It says that it's going to require teachers who have been working virtually to go back to their classroom, which means some students may find themselves with new teachers. More than 7 months into the pandemic and multiple vaccines are getting closer to potential approval. The federal government has invested $1 billion in pre-orders, but as Lauren Pelly reports, rolling out a vaccine widely and fairly across Ontario won't be without its challenges.
Every year, Canadians line up in droves for a flu shot. Officials say it's a good rehearsal for the eventual arrival of a vaccine to fight COVID-19.
So certainly we have annual experiences with implementing a influenza immunization program.
But bringing a brand new coronavirus vaccine from the lab to the public comes with fresh challenges. 10 vaccine candidates are now in phase 3 clinical trials, the last stage before a potential approval. And while that might seem like a light at the end of the tunnel, it could take months to ramp up production.
Approval itself is not going to be an overnight solution. There is going to be, a significant amount of time required to distribute the vaccine.
This expert on vaccines and coronaviruses expects supply chain issues given high global demand.
And initially, there's going to have to be prioritization around who should get the first doses of vaccine when they become available.
So who's first in line? Elderly residents in long-term care faced a staggering death toll across the country, while Toronto data shows racialized communities are often bearing the brunt of infections.
We may be looking at protection of really important healthcare workers, first responders, people who keep the economy running. We might want to be protecting vulnerable populations first before everybody else.
Officials here say they're already planning that rollout.
We've been working over the past several weeks ourselves at Toronto Public Health in concert with provincial partners on planning activities around COVID-19 vaccine and how that vaccine might be administered.
Still, there are plenty of questions for policymakers to answer, while an anxious public keeps waiting for this pandemic to end. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Dozens and dozens of people descended on a cornfield in Chatham, Kent Tuesday afternoon, part of a frantic search party looking for a 2-year-old boy who wandered into that field alone. This is Lauren Boccia and her son, Theo. A beautiful fall photo snapped in front of a cornfield. On Tuesday, they headed back to that field. Little Theo just couldn't get enough of it.
We were just about done. I was moving a piece of corn out of my face with some bugs on it, and I looked up and he was gone.
A tiny 2-year-old walking through an area about the size of 15 football fields. It was late afternoon, pressure mounting as evening approached to find the toddler. Almost immediately, a call was made to 911 and a post was put on Facebook pleading for help. Suddenly, dozens of people were pouring out of vehicles and into that cornfield. At times, they were bumping into each other while searching for Theo.
Just to drop everything, drop all their lives, find babies. Some of them found babysitters at the drop of a hat. We even had one of the neighbor older boys stop on by. He's like, maybe if Theo hears my voice, he'll come see me. And I'm like, oh, buddy.
How did you keep yourself calm?
Really, my daughter helped me a lot. I think just holding her and having to stay calm for her, that just helped me stay calm in general, because I had to slow my heart down. I had to make my adrenaline go down just so I could be okay for her.
Then, after an hour and a half searching the field, Theo was found by Boccia's uncle.
He just hugged me and he would not let go. So that was nice. And then his dad came over and tried to grab him. He was all teary and trying not to cry. And Theo's like, no, mommy, when he tried to, I'm like, no, Theo, honey, it's daddy, it's okay. And then he just jumped right to him too.
Theo was fine, muddy shoes, but healthy and back in his mother's arms. A mother who wants friends, first responders, and strangers to know she's thankful.
The community was absolutely amazing, that you're just driving by and you see something happening and you offer your help. I don't know if you were going home to go see your own families, but you had it in your heart to stop and help mine. So thank you so very much to all of my friends that came out. I don't know what else to say besides thank you.
The City of Windsor may soon be asking you to slow your roll, reducing the speed limit citywide from 50 kilometers an hour to 40. It went before the Environment, Transportation and Public Safety Standing Committee this afternoon. They chose to carry that motion forward to Council. Jacob Barker joining us here now live. Just finished that meeting up there. Why is City looking at reducing speed limits?
Well, Chris, councillors have been getting lots of calls from residents complaining about speeding. This change could reduce speeds on residential roads and then on major streets have marked signs where drivers can go up to 50 kilometers an hour. The initial cost would be more than $700,000. Those living in the city say regardless of the decision, drivers in their neighborhoods need to follow one rule: slow down.
I wouldn't have any issue with that at all. I think that'd be a great thing because as I say, some people take these corners pretty quick. I find there's lines painted right in the middle of the road, and many people cross right over that line. Once in a while, somebody's coming in the other direction, and they're honking horns at each other. And at night, it's even worse, you know.
There are times they're using this street. This is a laneway. It's one of the first streets in South Windsor. It's not a regular street, so therefore it's a cut-through. Very dangerous. No sidewalks, no curbs. Very dangerous. So I would look forward to a 40 speed limit here.
So Jacob, what was the conversation council had about that proposed change?
Well, I spoke to Fred Francis. He's on the committee and the only one to vote against the idea. He says he wasn't totally convinced that bringing the speed limit down by 10 kilometers an hour would change anything about the way people drive.
I think as a standalone solution, it doesn't work by itself. And actually, the writer of the report does say that on page 5 of the report, just reducing the speed limit by itself without any other considerations or measures probably won't have that desired effect of slowing people down.
So Francis says he would like to see more enforcement targeting certain areas where speeding is known to be an issue. The report also says lower speed limits have clearly demonstrated safety benefits, both in reducing the severity and number of collisions. And although the committee decided to lower the speed limit, it still needs to be approved by council.
Something to watch out for. Thanks for this, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. As we take a look outside at some of the streets in Windsor, we start to wonder what the weekend is going to look like. Colette Kennedy is going to join us with a full look at the forecast next. Joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. Do we still have that warm blast kicking around there?
Yeah, we still have that warm blast, Chris, that's going to be coming our way. The timing is going to be crucial as to when the cold front's going to come through as to just how warm we're going to get on Friday. So let me show you what I'm thinking in terms of the timing. Just to let you know, though, that system, the leading edge of it, the warm front kind of pushing through as it comes towards us, some showers developing overnight tonight into tomorrow, that Friday temperature spike, and then the drop behind the system once the cold front goes through, and it comes in time for our weekend. These are your current temperatures, what they look like. 14 for Windsor, Chatham-Kent at 13, 14 as well into Leamington. And we're into the clearer conditions, or clearing at least. So we get this little break, high pressure kind of sliding through, but it's also sliding away. What's coming next? Here's the next system in a series that we've been seeing. They had record-setting snow into Minnesota. And look, getting snow moving through once again, over 350 accidents in Minneapolis. And now they're seeing what could be another 10 centimeters on top of the 20 centimeters that fell there. For us, we're in the warmer sector, so showers developing, pushing through. There's that high that's leaving us. So light in nature at first, into the overnight, then a steadier rain coming through into tomorrow morning. Then we get the break. As we go into the warm sector, likely we're going to see tomorrow night temperatures rising towards morning into Friday. We get into that warm sector. The longer this cold front holds off, the better we're going to do into getting into the low 20s and not topping off into the upper teens. Then the front goes through, showers, likely even a few thunderstorms. So with just the first passing of the warm front, we'll see maybe 10 to 15 millimeters, probably closer to 10. And then on top of that, once the next section goes through, that's when we could be seeing up to another 15 millimeters or more. Tonight, your readings looking like this on the mild side. Tomorrow, a little above seasonal, but that's nothing compared to where we may get on Friday. I'm still thinking our timing, Chris, is going to be good to get us into the low 20s.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Colette.
You're welcome.
If you had international travel plans, you'll want to stay tuned. Canada has been removed from a list of approved travelers. We'll break that down next. Nationwide protests against police brutality continue in Nigeria, a day after dozens of protesters were hurt in a shooting in Lagos. Gunfire heard again today, and protesters could be seen running away. Demonstrators defied a new round-the-clock curfew. Police in Nigeria's largest city used tear gas, and smoke could be seen billowing from the city center. There have been nearly 2 weeks of unrest. The country's president says that law enforcement reforms are coming. The European Union has removed Canadians from its list of approved travelers due to concerns about the spread of COVID-19. Canada had been on a list of 11 countries where travel to the EU was approved. Today, Canada, Tunisia, and Georgia were dropped from that list, while Singapore was added. Not every EU country follows the list. The decision doesn't ban travel immediately. Pope Francis has endorsed same-sex civil unions. The endorsement was made in a documentary film that premiered at the Rome Film Festival today. Megan Williams with the story.
This is the most clear Pope Francis has ever been in his support of civil unions for same-sex couples. As Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he opposed same-sex marriages, but he did support some kind of legal protection for same-sex couples, of course, without the official recognition of marriage. Here, he reiterates that position and says it very, very clearly this time. He says that LGBTQ people have the right to families, to be part of families, and have the right for protection in the form of recognized civil unions.
It's not a movie about him as the star. It's a movie about human beings who need help and who've been helped.
This is a man who's opened his heart to the hearts of all of humanity.
It's not clear whether or not Pope Francis, in his statements, is in support of same-sex couples having children. In this documentary, they did interview a Roman man, Andrea Rubera, who has 3 children with his gay partner. The children were actually conceived through a surrogate from Ottawa, and they're very strong Catholics, and they had written a note to Pope Francis saying that they would like to introduce their children to the local parish here in Rome. Pope Francis got back to them saying, please go ahead and do that. Don't be afraid of the reaction you might have within your parish. Take your children and have them be part of the Catholic Church. So whether or not that's an endorsement of gay families is not 100% clear, but certainly this is the first time a Catholic leader has fully endorsed the concept of same-sex civil unions. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
It's 6:29 p.m. and that is it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, for more on these stories. Power and Politics is up next, a must-watch on a day like today. Thanks for watching. Make sure you and your family have a wonderful night tonight.